very good, but if you want to start talking about the markets this morning, we have to bear in mind when you look at the Indian markets, which have Indian open in the red. If you can pull up some of the stocks over there. The fact of the matter is that Indian markets opening this morning amidst unfavorable global cues for two reasons. One is that Fitch has downgraded the United States of America's credit rating from AAA to AA+. And that has hit sentiment when Asian markets opened this morning. Nikkei, Hang Seng, all of them down about 1% each. So, the fiscal deterioration of the US economy is the reason why Fitch has downgraded the US markets. Bear in mind, Dow and the Nasdaq also closing in the red last night because of not just that, there is a mixed bag of earnings that was hitting Wall Street, because of which US markets sort of closed, edged lower in the red, and hence you see Indian markets, Nifty, Sensex both opening in the red, about 0.5% down each, and as you can see other indices as well, Nifty Bank, Nifty IT, small cap, all of them opening in the red, and all that is because Indian markets opening, an hours after a sea of red in the Asian markets, and of course unfavorable cues coming in from the US markets last night as well. Some of the stocks in action this morning, HDFC Bank down in the red, and Hero MotoCorp also down in the red. Bear in mind, Hero MotoCorp, in fact, came out the auto sales number for the month of, for that was Honda MotoCorp. Hero MotoCorp down as well. To check out.
Hero MotoCorp essentially is down on the back of their CEO is currently being raided by
raids on Pawan Munjal impacting the Hero MotoCorp stock. The thing is that the stocks right now, these are some of the red and green up and down. Fact of the matter is there's been a mixed opening for Dalal Street, mainly because of mixed cues coming in from across the board, and that's the reason why you're seeing all the good sectors, IT, bank, all of them are down in the red. Big banking stocks like HDFC Bank down in the red as well. So right now at around 10 a.m. in the morning, an hour into market opening, not looking all that pretty, and that's just because we're just playing off what is around us as far as global markets are concerned. We'll know more when the European markets open in the afternoon, and then we'll see how Indian markets close from here on. Fact of the matter is that Indian markets also impacted by its own earnings that is coming in the IT pack.
Now, talking about earnings, PVR Inox came out with its earnings yesterday for the first quarter of the year. If you can pull up those earnings, those were good earnings for PVR Inox. Margin was slightly lower, but earnings on the back of the fact that Hollywood movies are picking the game up, or essentially make exactly for theatre business in India that continues to be under a lot of pressure for a lot of North Indian movies or movies in north of India. I mean, I say North Indian movies because we sort of differentiate between southern cinema and northern cinema, but movies produced essentially here haven't done really well.
The only way I look at it is that, look, the movie theatre business had the worst time possible during the pandemic, and say the last year and a half or so has been all about getting back to pre-pandemic levels. So in that sense, PVR Inox putting up, and also in the meanwhile you had the entire merger happening as well for PVR. So in that sense, PVR Inox putting up good numbers also means that Indian consumers' interest in watching movies in the theaters is back. You call it Hindi movie, Southern movie, Hollywood movie, doesn't really matter. On average, Indians are going out into to watch movies in the movie theaters, and the response that Barbenheimer, which is Barbie and Oppenheimer, got was a testament to how well.
And those numbers will be reflected in the second quarterly
earning.
So these
numbers doesn't even include the Barbie Oppenheimer madness. This is just movies releasing in movie theaters, people just showing up.
The quarter ending June.
Yeah, and people showing up. And you'll have to understand the fact that if you ask PVR and you take the breakup of movies, southern movies, what they contribute to their ticket sales and what Hindi movies, you will see that the portion of the southern movies have increased tremendously because you have so much of the Hindi audience now willing to go to the movie theater to watch southern cinema. So wherever Hindi movies are dropping out in terms of delivering those collections, that is being made up by southern cinema. Fact of the matter is that Indian movie goer, Indian movie watcher is happy going to the movie hall, and that is what is reflected in PVR Inox's numbers.
All right, and before we move on, I don't know if we have the PVR Inox numbers that we can show on our screens. We did show them to our viewers yesterday when the results were out in the afternoon, but what are the other trends that you'll be tracking through the day before we move on?
Right. The one thing I would like to know is what's going to happen to the Indian stock markets based on so many things. Like, for example, how European markets react to the downgrading of the US economy. That's something that will be interesting to watch out for. So that's around 1:30, 2 o'clock India time is when FTSE opens, is when the European markets open. So that'll be, I think, a very strong cue, because the Asian markets have reacted to the downgrading of the US economy by Fitch, and that is impacted. That is showing up in the Indian markets as opening. Indian markets close will depend a lot about how European markets open and how much we can withstand all these global pressures for the day. So I will be I'll be watching out for that tightrope balance that Indian markets do between global cues and domestic solidarity.
And earnings, of course, that we continue to track. We'll bring you those numbers by the end of the day today. But shifting focus to another important story that is going to play up today is by the way of GST Council meeting, a virtual meeting chaired by Finance Minister, of course, is going to deliberate on what fine prints of e-gaming GST levy will be. We are hopefully trying to get an expert voice on what e-gaming companies are hoping to do, planning to do, how they are preparing themselves for the 28% GST levy. But so far, what we know for a fact is that the levy will continue. There is no rethinking about it.
I was just going to say that, and you just pulled the words out of my mouth. The only thing I can think of the topic is that, be whatever happens in the meeting, it looks very unlikely that 28% GST on online gaming is going to go away, because it is very clear that when the GST Council is reducing GST from 12% and 15% to 0% on certain product categories, clearly identifying them as not worthy of being taxed, medical supplies and other things. So which means that all of that will have to come from somewhere else. The GST Council will look for other avenues which can be taxed extra. And it's very clear that online gaming is an avenue that the GST Council has clearly identified as that is an area where we can't go wrong if we tax too much. If we can't tax alcohol, if we can't put GST on petrol and diesel, this is definitely worth it, online gaming, and that's the reason
Those are the questions that perhaps Council will have to think, deliberate on for the sake of e-gaming platforms operating in India.
Face value or agree to GST on platform fee. Now here is the deal. The way the GST of 28% is being applied in online gaming, which is on compounded earnings, they say that is the best way of catching the tax requisite on that transaction. They don't even want to change the procedure or the format of calculating the 28% tax. It looks like this is a watertight tax that has been put by GST. There have been so many questions being raised ever since the news came out, and literally from the other end, from the government side, it's been like so. So 28%, stop online gaming. You can do tons of other things with such little tax.
It's interesting.
Why do you have to do online gaming? Online gaming is looked at as a luxury for people who have the time, who have the risk appetite to go do it. And if that's all about risk appetite, then that's got to be taxed as well.
And it's interesting you say risk appetite, because that is what some of the GST Council members are alluding to, speaking to various newspaper and media. They continue to maintain that young people are spending luxuriously on e-gaming platforms and on online gaming, and that is something we'll have to tax appropriately, perhaps provide some sort of blockage, hindrance for young gamers to not spend as much they're spending. And a 28% GST, which is equivalent to the GST levy on sin goods, would be a deterrent for many young gamers.
Two things for young gamers. One is addiction to online gaming, which is now proven. You've seen enough and more reports about how young people can get dangerously addicted to these online games and video games and etc. etc. So there is an online game addiction that we're dealing with over here. And the second is a gambling addiction. You lose some money in these online gaming, or quickly what you want to do is put more money and try to get that money back and more. So we're tackling both gaming addiction and gambling addiction, and that's the reason why.
Especially on online gaming, casinos, horse racing, where you have to pay at face value of 28%, because essentially that's how all the other services are taxed. They are taxed at face value.
Oh, absolutely. That's like a facial. Or a spa treatment. That's why those things are taxed, because they're saying is that's not an essential. But if you still have the money to do it, might as well pay some tax and go and do it. And look at the online gaming, casinos, horse racing. These three are the things that parents hope that their kids never get close to. Remove online gaming, which is a new age thing. Casinos and horse racing and online gaming being put in the same category as that tells you a lot about the approach to online gaming. It might be fun, it might be easy, it might sound snazzy and cool, but what you're doing is roughly casinos and horse racing.
That is true.
And It's okay if adults were to do it. Maybe, I don't know, if there can be an age cap on it, maybe 25 and above, 30 and above, you can don't have to tax. But 18 to 30, you want to tax. I don't know, but looks like for now that 28% tax is there to stay, because as you said correctly, it is being identified as a sin tax, and it's been very difficult for them to change their mindset around saying, oh no, actually this is not a sin. Right. This is okay. No, they're not going to do that.
Of course. And another debate would be, how do you differentiate between a game of chance and a game of skill, which is what industry is also hoping that there will be a difference. However, the government continues to maintain there is not going to be any difference. Perhaps GST Council today will have to deliberate on that as well. Is there a difference between game of chance and game of skills? And are you also penalizing people who are playing a game of skill?
I just find it funny that people have this argument, because if it is completely something that is illegal, the government would have just gone ahead and banned it. You can ban horse racing, you can ban casinos, and casinos are banned. In Singapore, for example, casinos are banned. Even in Goa, casinos are allowed only on waters, it's not allowed on land.
On the land,
so you can just completely ban these things if it's such big a problem. Here's the government saying that, you know what, we're not banning this, you're free to go ahead and do this, it's legally allowed, all you have to do is pay us the tax. It's the same mindset that you have to have when you're going in to get a facial or a massage in a salon. You'll be like, look, it's just a facial. I'm paying my hard-earned money to get a really expensive facial. Why am I supposed to pay 28% more? But that's because, bro, this is not an essential. This is not a necessity in a country of 1.4 billion people. If you can afford it, you've got to be taxed for it. You are an HNI in that scheme of things, affording a 3,000 rupee facial. I think transfer that argument into online gaming. Voila, there you go.
And another, I think, interesting point to look at would be whether there's going to be some amendment to the levy. So far, all indications suggest that 28% stays, but there could be some clarification as to how these levies will be charged, and all of that, of course, is going to be an important an important development debate that, you know, all gaming platforms would be looking at. We are given to understand, in fact, that gamers and gaming companies and their management had a meeting late last evening to decide on what the future course of action is going to be. And Council, of course, will be deciding in all of these matters. They will be deciding on different types of games, and obviously so far there's not a difference between a game of chance and a game of skill. So all of that would have to be.
It's a question of what exactly is skill.
And you know, I think if you break it down for our viewers at this point, before we move on, for every 100 rupee that you pay to a gaming platform, a 28% levy essentially means that 28 rupees goes to the government's coffers in terms of GST. So all you are left with is paying the rest of the money, which is approximately 72 rupees, and that is the amount that with which you will be playing your game with. So that is a big chunk of money out of the money that you are investing. And I think in all of this, platforms that are not registered in India, they are trying to woo gamers. They're saying, come to us, because we do not have to comply with the law of the land because we're not registered here. And so how will government tackle that? Gamers shifting from Indian platforms to platforms that are not based in India but do allow gamers to play games in India. All of that, of course, council will have to deliberate.
I'd say that you're actually helping the council put on further regulations. But they'll turn around and say, oh, watch out, there's a loophole over here. So a company can be registered outside the country and they can attract gamers and then they don't have to pay tax.
Of course.
Wow. Let's find a way to block that spillage of tax revenues as well. You're basically helping the GST council add to, the kind of regulations. I would be suspect.
I mean, they came up with an advertising saying there's no GST that you're going to pay up if you play with our platform, use our platform. So,
well, it's a matter of time, Shweta. I think, the idea is that to tax all online gaming. And these kind of loopholes will eventually be, we really thought TikTok is going to take off in India, right? So, because TikTok was not based out of India. TikTok was doing whatever the hell it feel like. One fine day, no TikTok. So that's the kind of environment that we operate in. All these online companies, crypto companies, the crypto companies almost became illegal in this country. So online gaming are on thin ice. I'm hoping that they get some kind of a mercy from the GST Council. At this stage, that's all they can hope for. But Indian online gaming companies, like you're pointing out, if the online gaming companies registered outside of Indian shores get away in this scheme of things, I don't think Indian online gaming companies are going to let go of that. They will definitely petition the government to make sure it's a level playing field.
All right. And talking about taxes, by the way of GST, direct taxes, indirect taxes. We've of course been talking about direct taxes for a while. ITR numbers are at an all-time high to the tune of approximately 6.8 8 crore people who have so far filed their income tax return. The number is way higher than last year, which was approximately 5.8 crore people. That is good news. What's also good news is what we discussed in terms of GST. The GST revenue showed up for the month of July is astounding. Quickly run us through those numbers. Those numbers, of course, on your screens. Let's quickly talk about the direct tax collection first, Krishna.
Look at that. Nearly over 6.5 crore rupees, 600 ITRs that are filed. More than 16% ITRs filed in the corresponding, 16% more than in the corresponding period in the last year. 53.5 lakh first-time filers and over 5.5 crore returns. E-Verify is a very important point over there. E-verification helping the process a lot. 3.5 crore ITRs processed. One thing that is really happening with income tax filings, whether you'll know while you're doing it yourself, is that the fact that so much of it is being done online, filing it online, verification of it online has really made it easy for so many busy professionals to go ahead and do it without the help of a chartered accountant. Look at the number of young professionals, Shweta, that you and I know who are going ahead and filing these taxes all by themselves. Would have been unimaginable 10 years ago. When we started working in the first 5 years of our working, you ask us to go file.
This was extremely complex.
Exactly. Shweta, why don't you go file your own income tax return? Like, are you joking? Like, I'm not a chartered accountant. Today, they're like, hold on, chartered accountant, I want to figure this out. New regime, old regime, let me figure this out and quickly apply for it and file the taxes accordingly. So there's a lot of ownership on behalf of people who are taxpayers. And of course, I'm talking about the organized market of taxpayers who don't have an option but to pay income tax. I think they've woken up and also that they have been provided the right platform. There is Sarul that is in the mix. The thing is that the larger problem is that the overall tax base, is increasing at a very annoying pace, which is not the kind
annoying, annoying pace. I wouldn't use that word, but come to think of it, states with highest growth in ITR filers is Andhra, Bihar, Punjab, Odisha, UP. Andhra Pradesh leading the pack there.
It tells you what kind of money that people in Andhra Pradesh are making. Also, it also tells you, the improvement of job scenario in Andhra Pradesh. That many more income tax filers from over there, from the organized segment. There has to be. You have to look at these data over a period of time, Shweta. In this one, clearly, Andhra Pradesh. You're talking about a southern state, high levels of education, high levels of employment as compared to say UP or a Bihar. So hence, Andhra Pradesh, filing so many taxes. So many people from Andhra also going to the US and UK to find employment. And also coming back and filing taxes for the incomes that they earn from everywhere, including India and abroad. So Andhra Pradesh is a developed, highly educated, far more industrialized state as compared to say Bihar.
Bihar is a pleasant surprise.
Bihar is a pleasant surprise. 42.2% increase. We're talking about all this is increase. It's the heartening thing about Andhra's number is that
highest growth basically in ITR filing.
Exactly. So and then half of that growth coming from Bihar is extremely heartening, and similar kind of growth coming from Punjab.
Punjab on expected lines. Bihar, I think, has sprung a surprise, and UP there also sprung a surprise.
The fact that UP and Bihar put together are doing 40 to 20, 30% increase in ITR filings is extremely heartening news, Shweta, as you're rightly pointing out. Now, Andhra, I would say expected. It's a matter of time it increases even more. But whereas UP, Bihar being in the race along with Andhra, that's fascinating. Along with Punjab as well.
Absolutely. And other figures that came out from ITR filing is who's earning how much. And the change year on year, those numbers are also increasing. A 98% change in people who are earning up to 5 lakh rupees. I think the most surprising for me is that figure of 167% change. That is in the number of people earning 20 to 50 lakh rupees. Essentially, if I were to say this is literally, I mean, not 200%, but close to it. People who are earning the highest in the bracket of 20 to 50 lakh rupees, the growth percentage there is overwhelmingly surprising.
Surprises me as well. We're talking about an economy where we're thinking about jobs being difficult to find, and the fact that people have found jobs within 20 to 50 lakh rupee gap and filing taxes on time and correctly.
This is data as of June, so I mean.
June is a fair enough measure if you ask me, Shweta. I mean, we're talking about difficulty in jobs for the last year or so. Where are the jobs coming from? Why is unemployment so high? So many questions being raised. There you go. That's a fantastic number. That's the number of Indians getting jobs. It's the quality of jobs that Indians are getting.
Right.
You know what? Forget the 167%. Nearly 100% increase in up to 5 lakh rupee jobs. That's important. That's the number of people who are being added on to the organized employed sector. That is as crucial as people in 20 to 50 lakh. I'm guessing, look at the number difference. 2,19,423. 1 crore 2,15,940. So the fact that so many people are coming into the organized sector, getting jobs, getting ITRs filed, PAN card, Aadhaar, bank account, that to me is very crucial.
Good news for people, good news for the government, the government able to bring them into the tax net. Let's talk about the GST numbers, the indirect tax collection, which is also at an all-time high, the second highest in the month of July at 1.65 lakh crore.
I mean, GST has been a case of IPL viewership. I think it's it goes down, it comes up, but the numbers are always fascinating. There's enough and more interest in IPL. There's enough and more interest in GST. There you go. What am I supposed to say? 1.55 to 1.65. It's stuck in that range. The lowest it's gone is 1.49 lakh crore rupees, 1.5 lakh crore rupees. And the fact that just a couple of months ago it hit nearly 2 lakh crore rupees at 1.87 should tell you, the fact that overall.
I think it's important. What does it tell you? It essentially tells you that there is an increased compliance as far as GST is concerned. The figures are quite in line with what government was expecting to achieve consistently over 1 lakh crore rupees since the start of this year. More revenues, more money in government coffers, hopefully more and better policies for us, but more, essentially all in all, both the money that is coming in by the way of direct and indirect tax collection is filling up government's coffers, and hopefully that should translate into some substance for us, all of us.
I'm hoping translates to better infrastructure for all of us. All that money goes into, there is a focus of government, be it even Nirmala Sitharaman has been talking about infrastructure, innovation, investment, all the 4 I's that Nirmala Sitharaman is talking about. Infrastructure is going to be the name of the game as far as India is concerned, with all these increased earnings. I'm hoping that all of this gets redirected eventually into larger infrastructure outlay from the government. But the fact of the matter is that this is very important.
This is important. This is the number of registered GST taxpayers who are currently at 13.8 million in financial year 22. This is not the latest data. This is for the data of financial year 22. But again, a good number there as far as compliance is concerned. Although I think it's also interesting to point out, since yesterday we've been talking about GST evasion, we've been talking about GST frauds, multiple GST registrations in order to subvert the law and not pay as many GST dues or as much fake invoicing. All of that continues to be a major problem, major hurdle. The government has not been able to identify how many of these GST registrations are actually true taxpayers as opposed to fake GST registrations. So all of that is going to be a burden for government to verify all these registrations and figure out how many are true, how many are not true.
Oh, absolutely, and the process is on. We've been talking about here on News 9 Live as well. 2 things like you mentioned. One is the fake GST accounts per se, as in you have a GST number, there's GST registration number, there is no account. Somebody has managed to get a fake Aadhaar and a fake PAN and has managed to register an account, which is a criminal offense. So first of all, and we're talking about over 20,000 fake GST registrations according to the last data that we've got. That's not exactly a happy number. It's not exactly a devastating number, but it's a number that's got to go away.
But that is for a very limited period of 3 months. And you extrapolate that for a year, the number becomes far higher.
Yeah, it's true. I would have been worried had GST collections been on the downswing because of all of that. Both reasons. One is fake GST accounts, which means you have so many GST accounts, you're supposed to get so many revenue, most of those GST accounts are fake. Second is that GST accounts and they're fake invoicing and they're not reporting the actual earnings and they're still paying less GST. The thing is that both are issues, and both are issues that would have alarmed all of us if your GST collections was going down. If your overall GST collections is not hitting minimum 1.5 lakh crore rupees and hitting nearly 2 lakh crore rupees, I would have said, oh my God, if there are 10 GST accounts, 5 of them are fake. We don't know that number. We are assuming that in a small period of time, if it's 20,000, in a longer period of time, it could be 1 lakh. But again, all of those are assumptions. This is based on the last 3 months of the IT department and the GST and the government essentially, purveying all the accounts and figuring out which is an actual account and which is not an actual account.
Okay. So and let's look at GST rates on some of the essential items, goods that we consume on a daily basis: milk, eggs, curd, lassi, kajul, educational services, health services, 0%.
Tomato over there as well.
Tomato as well. Okay. Sugar, tea, packed paneer, coal, edible oil, raisins, domestic LPG, 5% GST.
Yep.
Those are essential goods and items that we're discussing here, and the GST rates on the same. Butter, ghee, computers, processed food, almonds, mobile, 12%. And
isn't it so beautiful? Milk is 0%, but
And
butter
butter is
is 12%. That's
12%.
called value addition.
Okay.
So, and also, this sort of tells you a story of the milk is essential for you, but
You
not
can do
exactly.
without
You can do without the butter,
the butter and
so
ghee.
to speak.
okay.
Or if you want butter, pay 12% GST.
All right, so 18% on hair oil, capital goods, toothpaste, soap, ice cream, pasta. So all of that, of course, are the and 28% before. Okay, so 28%
the
on small
sin
cars.
tax.
This. The sin tax, as they call it, high-end motorcycle 15% plus cess, consumer durables, luxury sin items, aerated drinks, essentially items that you own because you have more money and you can afford to buy them, as opposed
believe
to
you me,
being
I am so
essential essential items that you need for daily
I love the fact
survival.
that aerated drinks is 28% tax plus a 15% cess. That's like an effective way of banning aerated drinks in the Indian market. You're essentially paying a premium of nearly 50% per aerated drink that you're having, and that's how sinful an aerated drink is. If we can send one message out along with all the business use messages we're sending out, ladies and gentlemen, stay away from aerated drinks. Look at how they're being taxed. They're not good for you.
Nobody cares about the taxes. As long as you want to drink it, you drink it.
No,
you don't care of how much you're paying
Find
on
anything
it.
that's non-aerated to drink. It's better for your health. You know how harmful. You've seen enough and more YouTube videos of how harmful aerated drinks are, and that's government's way of telling the entire population that, like, that's what aerated drinks do to you, and that's the reason why we're taxing it so much. So I sort of think that the GST, when it fully evolves, Shweta, I think we'll have a more clear rationale
Right.
coming out of
And
what is
since-
sin tax and what is not a sin tax.
Absolutely, and since we are on tax slabs, and before we move on,
Yeah.
quickly, it's also important to point out the number of changes that have been made in tax slabs.
Yeah.
There have been almost more than 700 notifications
Right.
since GST taxation came into being. Around 400 goods and services have seen constant changes.
Yes.
5%, 0%, 0%, 5%, and all of these mean that it becomes difficult
Yes.
for a business operator to comply with the law. Although I'm sure compliance is way higher and is in line with government estimates, it could be higher
Oh, yeah.
in case there was less tweaking. So perhaps GST Council now needs to look at, I'm not sure what they need to look at, but they absolutely need to stick to rates that they eventually
Shweta,
arrive at,
as you say
as
that-
opposed to changing them very quickly.
As you say, that online gaming industry will be like, we prefer flexible rates that are moving. Because the online gaming industry, if you go tell them, no, we've decided 28%, no more changes, because
Okay.
changes is affecting compliance. What do you think will happen to online gaming industry? They'll be like, heck, we're looking for a change, we're hoping for a change. So that's what I'm saying. It's a twin-edged sword. You're making so many changes, bringing in more, sanity to your GST rates. At the same time, all those changes are also affecting compliance.
Okay.
The only way I can look at this is this: we're still at a very early stage of evolution of GST. And in that phase itself, we're able to generate so much revenue and so much compliance. If over the course of this financial year, we can, put more solidification to your GST rates, I think compliance will grow multifold starting next financial year.
Absolutely. So perhaps a need for the government to arrive at rates that they don't have to tinker with
Too much in the going
too
forward.
much going forward. But let's move on to another important story that we are tracking, and that is by the way of willful defaulters. For a very long time, we continued talking about willful defaulter, at least in the previous government,
Oh, yes.
where a lot of people who had the capacity to pay back to the banks did not or could not. But the data that we have latest from this government, data that was shared by Finance Ministry in Lok Sabha, nearly 50 top willful defaulters owe banks more than 87,000 crore rupees. The data was shared in Rajya Sabha from Finance Ministry. That is a very significant number there, 87,000 crore rupees, Krishna.
The other number is scaring me even more. Banks have written off an aggregate of 10,57,326 crore rupees during the last 5 years. That's a couple of European countries. That's a few European countries, if you ask me. 10,57,326 crore rupees. It's
This is the write-off.
That's the write-off, and that scares me a lot. On top of that, now nearly 1 lakh crore rupees. One thing is that the NPAs, which were really going out of hand at one stage, which we thought the fear was that it could sink India's banking system. India's banking system is not nearly at that brink of completely collapsing, like what happened in some of the Southeast Asian economies and some of the other countries. So in that sense, I would say that we've back from the brink, but the situation is far from being sorted. The latest numbers telling you the real story: over 87,000 crore rupees yet to be paid back, and the write-offs are only, any more write-offs will only add to the 10 lakh odd crore rupees that have been written off in the last 5 years. And if we thought UPA was NPA was a big problem during the previous government regime, it is a lesser problem now, I would say, but not necessarily has gone away. A lot more work still needs to be done when it comes to non-performing assets and willful defaulters.
All right, and another interesting figures that are coming out of that RBI data that was shared in Rajya Sabha by the government is that nearly 6 crore bank accounts were opened under the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, have made no transactions at all. So these are essentially dummy accounts that were opened up but did not transact. And then of the total 49.48 crore accounts were opened, total accounts that were opened were 49.48 crores, of which 6 crore bank accounts absolutely had no transactions recorded in them. So essentially dummy accounts there as far as accounts opened under Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana is concerned. It is good that government endeavors to bank the unbanked. It is also important for transactions to happen through these banks and the bank accounts.
I'm just trying to figure out the percent. I'm thinking of the percent over here. 50 crore accounts, out of which 6 crore accounts. We're talking about 10%.
Let's pull up that data again.
Right. So out of 50 crores, accounts, you're talking about 5 crore, 10% is the fake accounts we're looking at. And if you ask me, look at you compare this with the number of fake GST registrations, and you'd find a similar pattern. That the fact that there will always be people who are looking to circumvent the system.
So that's about 12% there.
It's about 10 to 12% over there. So, I mean, there will always be 10 to 12% people in any economy, in any country, in any society, willfully waiting for the opportunity to circumvent.
Yes, but these are not people who are circumventing. These are essentially people who have a bank account that was opened, but they were not able to transact through these banks. So, essentially, the crux of a Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana was to bank the unbanked, to get every person out there to be a part of the formal banking structure, to ensure that they have a bank account open in whichever the local bank is. And nearly 50 crore accounts were opened since Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana came into being, of which 6 crore accounts have not seen any transaction at all. So we've moved away from the willful default story to the story of banking the unbanked, of the people who have been the beneficiaries of the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana.
I could focus on the 6 crore number and see that as the problem. I will focus on the 44 crore rupees.
Okay.
I mean, it's unfair that you would look at something like this and go like 6 crores, 6 crores, 6 crores. I'm like 44 did not have bank accounts. 44 have bank accounts right now and are transacting.
All right.
Who can be perfect? Neither you nor me, nor any scheme. The fact that 90% success has been achieved with this is a testament to the scheme itself, Shweta.
Okay. Let's move on. Another important story that we're tracking is by the way of the 2,000 rupee note that was recalled, demonetized, whichever word you like to use. Nearly 88% of that is back with the government.
I mean, the 2,000 rupee note is a mystery that I think I'll never be able to solve. How it came into the system, why it came into the system, what did happen inside of it, because some people believed something was there inside that 2,000 rupee note and they're not apologizing for talking about things that didn't exist inside the 2,000 rupee note. So my issue with the 2,000 rupee note is that this is a mystery, this is an enigma. What was the rationale behind it? Behind introducing it, what is the rationale behind taking it back? I mean, I'm not exactly an expert to really weigh in on that. But the fact of the matter is that these are official data being put out by the RBI. 87% of the notes in the form of deposits. That's also key. That so many people went to the bank to deposit their 2,000 rupee notes. 13% of them only exchanged for cash. So, those are telling numbers as well. We have time till 30th of September 2023. So, all those watching this broadcast with any 2,000 rupee notes in their possession, be it at home or at work or with relatives, or if hidden it somewhere underneath the ground or inside your groceries, it's about to take out those 2,000 rupee notes. You have time, about 2 months left, less than 2 months left, so to speak, to quickly go back and find ways to either exchange it or deposit it back. I'm just wondering, are we looking at a comeback of the 1,000 rupee note? You know, now that we've done away with the 2000 rupee notes, we just need at least some kind of high value note. The highest value right now is 500 rupees. And looking at the way prices are of things, with 500 rupees, Shweta, you can at best buy 2.5 kilos of tomatoes these days. So, you know, you can't buy more with the 500 rupee note. Tomatoes cost 200 rupees a kilo.
What are you saying? 1.5 kgs of tomato, not 2.5 kgs of tomato.
Yeah, so 1.5 kgs of tomato. That's what I'm trying to say.
Because I just bought this morning. So
for 500 rupees.
It is 160 rupees half a kg.
That's a good price. I got it for 200 kilograms this morning from Swiggy Instamart. So 200 kilograms per kilo.
So yeah, so it's 320 rupees a kilo online.
Wow, fantastic. So that's what I'm trying to say. With the 500 rupee note, you can at best buy one portion of your vegetables that you need. So you need a high value note. I am just all I can think of when you think of this news of 2000 rupee notes going back.
All right.
Are we going to get 1,000? Are we going to get a 1,500? Are we going to get a 3,000 rupee note? I don't know. We'll wait and watch.
All right, we'll have to wait and watch. But let's move on. Let's move on to another important story that we're tracking, and that is coming by the way of telecom operators in India. I request my colleague Amit to walk in and run us through these numbers. Amit, staggering numbers there. Vodafone continue to lose subscribers and at a very fast clip.
26 months in a row.
26 months,
so
yes.
Thanks to them, Jio has added 4.9 million active users. Airtel, half of that, 2.4. So Jio has been the biggest gainer in that whole thing. Their losses, they are basically down to their last 205 million subscribers, Vodafone Idea. And their base went down by 1.77 million last month. So this is the highest loss in the last 6 months. So those are the numbers. I mean, they just continue. 26 months is a long time.
More than 2 years.
It means the company is not doing anything to correct this.
Come to think of it, look at the numbers for their competitors, Reliance and Airtel. Both continue to vie Voda's share. And Voda's share in the subscriber
active users
in the number of active users that Voda had. So while Vodafone continues to lose business, you have Jio and Airtel minting on Vodafone's loss.
Mostly Jio. Airtel is a distant second. There are only 3, but of course it is half of what Jio has gained.
Okay, so Reliance Jio, they're currently number one with 436 million subscribers.
Vodafone does not know what to do. 26 months, again, I'll repeat myself, is a long time.
Okay, 26 months.
They should have corrected themselves.
Absolutely, 26 months is a long time, but come to think of it, this is the pie chart currently tells you India's telecom market share. Leading the pack is Reliance Jio with 38.17% of the overall business. Next up is Bharti Airtel with 32.57%. Vodafone currently has been shrunk to 20.20%. And others that essentially
BSNL
would be BSNL still has a substantial 9%.
And some other regional players.
And the regional players, of course.
Is Airtel still around? I mean,
I'm just kidding. I was trying to say the fact that this is a duopoly, isn't it? It's a very clear duopoly.
It's clear duopoly, and they're continuing to lose, and they'll lose further. If the way things are going.
Right.
Okay, so why are they losing? Let's also quickly understand, why is Vodafone losing? I mean, apart from the fact that you're not able to get a signal and you quickly want to move and switch your operator, which is a lot of people around me are doing that. They are switching operators very, very quickly. Porting of numbers has become easier in the last couple of years. So all it takes you is a missed call, and voila, comes a representative from another telecom operator at your doorstep, asking you to furnish them some very basic details, and you can port your number.
The biggest taker of the pie is Jio. Jio did not exist close to 5 years ago. It was just Bharti and Vodafone and Idea. Then there came a disruptor in the form of Jio, and blame everything on Jio. Okay. let's do it, because there were Vodafone and Idea. Both of them had a problem. They got together. People thought it's a big merger. It's going to change things. Nothing changed things. It was a scorched earth sort of approach from Jio, and look where they are. I am worried about Bharti right now.
All right. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're all worried about Bharti. We don't know how they are going to sustain. But again, Jio and Airtel continue to be dominant players on the back of Vodafone's loss. Moving on to another interesting space that we are tracking, and that is the auto space. Krishna, you ran us through some of these numbers. These numbers.
Let me run you because there's been lots of data
changes and data that has come out.
So let me quickly
pull up that data. Yeah. Let's pull up that data and let's understand other players that have come up with their numbers includes Maruti Suzuki as of last night.
Maruti Suzuki's overall sales, all vehicles put together, up 3% to over 1,80,000 units. So, you know, I'll take you through more numbers as well, if you can hold on. This is a good number. It disappointed estimates, actually. In fact, Maruti Suzuki finally coming in and, you know, the numbers not really, you know, giving you the kind of meeting the expectations that analysts on the street were having. And as you can see, main reason for that is that the sales are up 3%. Street expected to be more, and they were up only 3% because of the 21% fall in compact car sales as compared to July 2022. These are year-on-year numbers. In July 2022, when you compare to July 2022, you know, compact car sales were down 21%. Exports were up 10% again. When you talk about Maruti Suzuki, export could have easily been up 20% as well. Fact of the matter is that Maruti sort of took a hit only in the compact car sales department. Their SUVs are doing fantastic. They're market leaders in SUV. So that is the reason why it was a bit of a mixed bag as far as Maruti is concerned. Hyundai Motors, on the other hand, again, largely flat, 0.4%. But then look at their numbers. They sold over nearly 51,000 units for the month of July. Exports, again, up 20%. As I said, this could have easily been Maruti. It wasn't to be the case for Maruti. That's the reason why, to put Maruti's numbers into perspective, did not meet expectations. Hyundai, fantastic numbers. Passenger vehicle sales up 30% as well to 36,205. That's for M&M. Overall, if you see the auto pack per se, most auto companies putting up good to decent numbers, not exactly great numbers. But the analysts and the experts believe that these are great build-up for the festive season sales that will happen. 8% increase in tractor sales. So Mahindra & Mahindra doing extremely well on two counts. One is its own tractor sales and three-wheeler sales. There you go, 49%. And their SUV sales as well. M&M's highest ever SUV sales in a month recorded so far was recorded for the month of July 2023. So good numbers from M&M. Tata Motors commercial vehicle sales down 4% at around 33,000 units. However, the bright spot for Tata Motors was the electric passenger vehicle or electric car sales up 53%, which sort of tells you what's happening with the Tata Nexon EV. You know, Tata Nexon EV is the top selling passenger car, electric passenger car, and that really showing up as far as Tata Motors overall sales numbers are concerned. Domestic sales flat, but then numbers are incredible. 78,000, 79,000 units being sold. This is a big company. Passenger vehicle sales flat at 47,589, and that's probably because in the SUV space it's getting strong competition from M&M and others. Toyota's best ever monthly sales again, just like M&M. This is overall monthly sales. M&M's best ever SUV sales. Toyota's best ever overall sales in India. Exports accounting for about 1,100 or 1,200 odd units. In fact, Toyota also has been on the upward swing in the Indian market. Previously posted best monthly sales in May 2023, and now again in July 2023, it's beaten that May 2023 numbers. However, Honda cars total sales down 28% at 4,864 units, despite selling all those Honda Cities. Honda cars' sales in July was down. Exports too was down 47%. More than 2,000 units were exported in the month of July 2022. For July 2023, just about 1,000 or so, nearly 50% drop as far as exports are concerned. And you're looking at sales numbers for MG Motors right now. It's a small company, Shweta. And even that has posted 25% growth. If you're wondering, you know, MG Motors sales, not really, you know, who's buying MG cars? Everybody buys Maruti or a Tata or an M&M. Who buys MG? There you go, more than 5,000 people just for the month of, July alone. So MG with a small car portfolio, a premium, more expensive car portfolio is able to post a 25% growth in the Indian market, Shweta, and that's fascinating. That, in a sense, will tell you the kind of build-up that has been happening. So many people who sort of postponed their purchases during the pandemic, finally coming back into the market and, you know, going for their car purchase, for their dream car. All of that is happening. Wait for all the euphoria that will hit the Indian car market come when the festive season begins. In all honesty, we have Ganesh Chaturthi, set to kick off the festive season, and you know what a favored god Ganesh is across the country. People love buying cars on Ganesh Chaturthi and going forward for it, plan it for a Diwali, Navratri. You know, you've got the whole host of up until Christmas and New Year's. You know, all religions are
the festive
in
season
India. So,
kick-starting.
as far as car sales are concerned, the entire festive season will be the real test. And it won't be about whether you can increase sales. It'll be about how much of a jackpot can you hit in this festive season.
All right, so it's not about whether the sales will be up or not, it's about how much is what my colleague Krishna here believes. Essentially, car sales expected to go up from the month of August itself. I'm assuming September, but I think we'll have to wait and watch out. But I'm afraid we've run out of time on this show. With that, it's a wrap on this bulletin. Thanks very much for watching.
ChatGPT. It can generate codes and human-like responses through text, write stories, and do a lot more.
I work in a newsroom with anchors, researchers and scriptwriters, graphic artists,